So in justifying the use of talking as therapy, right, as a central, if not basically the only thing that's occurring in therapy. Of course, more is occurring, but we're talking about Freud talking to an audience, describing psychoanalysis. So the use of speech to find a cure, to experience healing or a cure, is what he's attempting to convey. And so he talks about how, of course, it's going to probably bring up some resistance and suspicion in family members or the patient themselves, in terms of the effectiveness of using just talking as a way to find healing, when normally a medical treatment requires some other more robust, invasive procedure. It's the implementation of some device or, right, something. It's not just talking. He says in defending the effect of words, words were originally magic, and to this day words have retained much of their ancient magical power. By words, one person can make another blissfully happy or drive him to despair. By words, the teacher conveys his knowledge to his pupils. By words, the orator carries his audience with him and determines their judgments and decisions. Words provoke affects and are in general the means of mutual influence among men. Thus, we shall not depreciate the use of words in psychotherapy, and we shall be pleased if we can listen to the words that pass between the analyst and his patient. Let's not underestimate the mere power of words. And this is such a minute, seemingly unimportant point, but I think that it's so profound and goes along with what I'm experiencing as some of Freud's genius, in that his emphasis on the little things is something that sets him apart, or set him apart at the time, and probably is such a significant part of psychoanalysis, why it is and was so different. He talks about the limits of just listening. A neurasthenic or hysterical patient can, of course, like any other, be introduced to students in a psychiatric lecture. He will give an account of his complaints and symptoms, but of nothing else. The information required by analysis will be given by him only on condition of his having a special emotional attachment to the doctor. He would become silent as soon as he observed a single witness to whom he felt indifferent, for this information concerns what is most intimate in his mental life. Everything that, as a socially independent person, he must conceal from other people, and beyond that, everything that, as a homogeneous personality, he will not admit to himself. Of course, we can complain to anybody. We can reveal our symptoms. We can and will talk about what's wrong on a very surface level with most people. As soon as the person we're talking to, though, demonstrates indifference to our predicament, it generates a sense of protection, or a whole host of other kinds of reactions. The point being, that kind of small demonstration of disinterest or aversion to a person's vulnerability can quickly shut them down. But further than that, without a special emotional attachment, I think another way of simply saying it is like a sincere sense of rapport, a sense that the person is not only listening, but has like cares. There's an emotional investment in the well-being. That doesn't necessarily mean that the one who's emotionally invested will be unable to function if the person having a problem, if their problems get worse, but having a neutral benevolence and a sincere sense of care for the well-being of the person you're listening to might get at this idea of special emotional attachment, because the information being shared concerns what's most intimate for this person. And I find this to be such a great like snippet that I think maybe encapsulates the basic idea of analysis and metapsychology. Everything that as a socially independent person he must conceal from other people, suggesting that the inverse of his social independence is an unconscious tendency or yearning for love that has been repressed and is unacceptable. And beyond that, everything that as a homogeneous personality he will not admit to himself. The socially engaged person, the agreeable person who secretly harbors resentments but cannot admit that to themselves, because if they do, that might demand a new level of self-advocacy in relationship. It might threaten the harmony, the homogeneity in relationships that they currently have, enjoy, and depend on for their fragile equilibrium. So that's that for now. That's part of the introduction, lecture 1, introductory lectures.